while we were enjoying our wonderful, spectacular retreat with Geshe Yeshi Tapke, on the news it said that George Zimmerman, the man who murdered Trayvon Martin, was acquitted of both the second-degree murder charge and manslaughter charges, and he is free to go and collect the gun that he used to kill Trayvon and go home. So, a number of people are in total shock and are quite upset. There's been a lot of demonstrations around the country in protest of this, and a lot, in the newspaper about it. And the things that people seem to be most upset about, first of all, is that the lawyers kept on saying race was not an issue when it very obviously was an issue, and then second, that the laws in Florida and a number of other states who have similar laws enable somebody so easily to use the defense, to easily say self-defense and not get charged for murder at all. Because all you have to do is fear for your life or fear for some bodily harm, and then in Florida you're allowed to shoot somebody even if they're retreating and even if you have the possibility of retreating. It's totally absurd, and it's extremely dangerous. Somebody could just be walking down the street and say, you're looking at me cross-eyed and you're threatening me and I'm afraid, and boom, boom. So I think in this kind of situation, it's very easy for people, again, to become either cynical or bitter or depressed, to just kind of throw up our hands and say the justice system is anything but just. But we kind of already knew that, didn't we? It's quite obvious. If you live in this country, the justice system is not just. So then again, the question comes, well, how do we view something like this? And how do we avoid becoming cynical and bitter and angry and, fall into despair and so on? And I think you just have to take it, again, with compassion for everybody in this situation, for Trayvon, for George Zimmerman, for the people who acquitted him, for the people who made the laws, and realize that this is a situation of samsara where sentient beings' minds are obscured by ignorance and by everything else. So of course they make bad decisions, and although they want happiness, they do what creates the exact opposite. And so to see this as, this is the outcome of remaining in samsara. So if we choose to remain in samsara because we think samsara is fine and dandy, then we're going to continue to be involved in outcomes like this. So we want to strive for liberation. We also want to help everybody else get out of the samsaric situation and not have to suffer in this way. And also, not just bring this into our Dharma practice and use it to inspire our practice and to eliminate this whole confused situation altogether, but also to do what we can in this life now to promote harmony, to promote fairness, to speak out against injustice, but without anger, without accusation, without resentment, you know, but just to continue to explain in a reasonable way how, you know, give out other alternatives, how things can exist. It was very beautiful. Trayvon's mother, Sabrina, kind of said, I can't quote her exactly, but it was something to the effect of, we're not going to let this event define Trayvon's life. We will define his life, and we have a long way to go, but we can do it, and we can change things. And so she was really using it in a very positive way, and many people are, I think, to use it in a positive way is, okay, this is pointing out again how even though the Supreme Court said that, you know, racism is not such a big problem, and that's why they justified cutting out part of the Voting Rights Act, that actually racism is still very much a problem, you know, and that we need to talk about it in a kind way, but we need to talk about it and not brush it under the table. Yeah, and we need to check the racism that exists in our own minds, even if we don't intellectually believe racist ideas, and this goes not only for racism but sexism and all the other kind of things, modes of prejudice. We may not, you know, we may just really dislike all kinds of prejudiced views, but we may have been raised in such a way that we automatically are suspicious of certain people, you know, and so that's a form of subtle racism that exists in our mind. The thing is to be able to catch it and to say, that's illogical, that doesn't make any sense, you know. One thing that they used in the trial, this is amazing how in the trial they said it doesn't have anything to do with racism, but they had one witness on the stand who said that, you know, she lived in the same neighborhood and how she was cowering in terror as two African American men broke into her house and robbed her house. And that association of it being two African American men was enough to make Trayvon a just because he was walking in the neighborhood. If she had said, I cowered in terror while two white men broke into my house and robbed it, then nobody would see the walking of a white teenager in the neighborhood as anything unusual to be afraid of. But the association is exactly the same, you know? So it's this kind of thing that we need to look out for and speak out against, and check in our own minds, you know, how we were brought up, what kind of automatic associations we have. One thing that I've got to share that I found, I don't use the word despicable very often because it's such a judgmental word, but I have to admit, and I'm applying compassion as an antidote. But one of the jurors, there were 6 women jurors, all women, all white. No black jurors at all. And she has signed a contract with a literary agent to write a book about this. And I read that and I felt so sick. You know, like how could somebody use this horrible situation of this young kid losing his life to write a book about to make money, you know, after being a juror and acquitting the murderer. I just felt so kind of sick reading that. But, you know, when the mind is when there's ignorance, anger, and attachment, that's where we go, don't we? You know? That's where we go. And so we may not do that, but we should look at where our own ignorance and anger and attachment take us. Yeah? And ways that we seek to make money, or ways that we seek to get our position known or to become famous or something like that. Yeah? So, you know, in short, to take all this as something to check our own mind with and to develop renunciation and compassion and bodhicitta in response to, and to do what we can in this life to improve the situation, either by changing laws, changing people's minds, whatever we need to do.